What's up, guys? Hugs, not drugs. Hope you guys are doing good. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Anyways, this video is going to be about my spice days. I really haven't made any videos about my spice days, and I'm going to tell you guys why. I don't really remember them because I was so messed up and I was in such a daze that I don't even really remember much. So it's hard to give you guys a story. With the H and with the Fetty, things were just so rough that it gives me PTSD. It's like you just can't forget that stuff because it's just so gutter and it's just so raw and it hits you in the chest. But with the spice, it's like you're just unconscious. So I think I told you guys I had met this guy named Vic. What did I call him? I called him like Vic the Forest Man. So this guy Vic, I was 25 and Vic was an older guy, strong as an ox. Like this guy used to scare me. Like sometimes he was probably about 5'11", so not too tall, but taller than me. About 230 pounds, but solid muscle. Not an ounce of fat on this guy. This guy was just so solid. And the reason why he was so solid, he was a recycler. He would ride around on his mountain bike with a sea bag, those big green military bags, and he'd fill it full of metal, cans, pipes, computers, and he had a tool belt and just every little tool for just cutting metal. And he was from Laguna Beach. I mean, he grew up in Laguna Hills, Laguna Beach, Laguna Niguel, just the whole Laguna area. And so local businesses would just leave their metal. Like if they had cans or any type of like metal, they knew that Vic would be riding by on his bike, and so they just leave it at the business. And so he had like a route. I remember asking Vic like how much he makes a day. He said that he made enough just to support his weed, and just to support himself. This is before inflation. This was like 2009. He said he made about $50 a day. I want to say it was probably slightly more than that. But it was a lot of work to get this $50. The Suboxone really messes with my throat. That's why my voice is always raspy. I really want to get off the Suboxone. I don't like being on it. It messes with my stomach and my throat. But yeah, Vic the Mountain Man. And so he would just collect this metal. He'd fill it in the sea bag, and he had a campsite. And so I knew Vic from like being at Laguna Beach, being on the bus, seeing him at the bus stop. And I knew that he was homeless, but I didn't know like where he camped out or if he slept on a park bench. I didn't know that. And I'm going to tell you how I found out about his camp spot. So I was living with my friend, and something happened. Like we lived with my friend and my friend's mom, and something happened with the mom. We got into an argument or something, and so like we were gonna just go camp out, like urban camping for a little bit, just to get away from the house because they were fighting with their mom. So I had a tent, and I decided to. Let me backtrack a little bit. So I was homeless, but my friend lived across the street from where my campsite was. And I had positioned my campsite so it was close to my friend's house, because me and my friend, I stored all my merchandise at my friend's house, and we'd work on eBay and we'd sell things together. So I just wanted we had to be close. So I got this campsite, and if you're familiar with Laguna Hills, It's directly across the street from the Laguna Hills Library. You guys can go on Google Earth and check it out. But so you got the Laguna Hills Library. There's a skate park in the back of the library, and then across the street next to Ralph's, it's just kind of like an open field. And if you look now, the field they've gone through with like a bulldozer, and there's no vegetation. But at the time when I was there was like growing vegetation and brushes and like little trees, little desert trees, like a palm tree. But I used to post things from the library, so I wanted to be close to the library because I could use the computer, I could get on Craigslist, I could post it, I could make money, I could charge my phone. This is the time that I was drinking a lot of beer. I wanted to be next to Ralph's because Ralph's, I could buy my beer. They're open till like 1 a.m, so I can just walk there and just get my beers. And I was looking for a place to camp, and I saw this like area, and I'm like, the way it looks is like, no, you wouldn't want to camp there. But as you walk over a little bit further, you realize that it's like a mirage. Like it kind of looks like there's nothing there. But then when you walk over, you're like, oh, there's a little hidden area over here, like behind these brushes. Like, you know, the bushes that people use for privacy in their yards? Like they plant the brush and they trim the bushes to like give their yard privacy from the neighbors. It was like those bushes. And so it had those, and I was able to go behind those bushes and be hidden from everybody on a busy, like, and this is in the center of Laguna Hills. You got the high school, this is an urban area. Like this is almost like camping at a bus stop. Like you can't do that. And it was actually right behind a bus stop. But I see this area, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I think I could pitch a tent here and just live here. I'd be like next to my friend, close to the library, next to the grocery store. There's a bathroom right here. There's a Jack in the Box. It was 24 hours. So I did it. I pitched my tent, and I got super glue, and I glued brush and vegetation onto the top of the tent to make it blend in. And it worked. Eventually the brush ended up dying, and then it turned brittle, and so I had to like keep doing it over and over again. But yeah, I was able to camp out at this place. I had my tent. I had like dug a hole to use the bathroom. The vegetation, the brush I was telling you, was like the perfect area to just throw my beer bottles, because whenever I was done with beer, I'd just throw it and it would just disappear in the bushes. And I actually would sell things on Craigslist. I would keep, like I told you, I kept merchandise at my friend's house. But now that I had this area, I just started keeping merchandise back at my little campsite, because I had space now. It was like the greatest campsite ever. And I lived there for about 3 months. And then I remember my uncle had died in Maine, and I had just taken a vacation to Maine and came back and went back to my camp spot. But I remember my uncle died, and I got into like this psychosis episode. Oh, and I was doing a lot of spice. This is back when, another thing I forgot to tell you. So also across the street next to the library was a smoke shop. And at the smoke shop, they sold bath salts and they sold spice. This is when you could buy spice at every single gas station. Like, they wouldn't have it open. Like, you'd have to ask for it. You'd have to, like, there was like code names like, what was it? Wacky weed. And what was the other one? There's another name for it. But yeah, and so they would sell like these little half gram baggies of spice. And I think I had started, at first, I think I was on probation. Yeah, I was on probation. And so I was afraid of getting drug tested. So that's how I actually started smoking the spice. But hold on, I gotta take another drink of water. I'm cleaning up my storage tomorrow, and so I'm bringing a bunch of stuff to the swap meet. So I'm trying to get to my storage. I don't have access to the storage past 9, and I got to get my truck, bring it over there, load up the truck, and then park the truck somewhere close to the house. That way I can keep an eye on it while I sleep. Then I got to get to sleep, wake up early, go pick up Michael, and then we're going to go to the swap meet. I'm going to get rid of all the stuff that I've accumulated that really isn't worth any value. I bought 300 pairs of shoes for $80 the other day. They're not brand name. It's like an Amazon return or Walmart returns, but hey, 100 pairs of shoes for $80, like that's crazy. So I'm gonna try to. I don't want to keep any of the shoes. I'm just gonna bring them there. Whatever doesn't sell, I'm just gonna throw them away. They're shoe boxes, so it's a big shoe box, and so it takes up a lot of space. So I'm just gonna go there. People are gonna say, hey, how much are these? I'm gonna be like, oh, they're $5 for a pair, and I'm just gonna take whatever, anything over $1, I'm gonna take. And then at the end, like towards the end of the day, I'm just gonna liquidate everything. I'm just gonna say, all right, $2 for pairs of shoes. Hopefully sell all of them. But anyways, let me get back to the story. So I'm in this campsite across from the library, smoking a lot of spice, drinking a lot of Corona with limes. That was my beer. But they had this like fake Corona. It was called like, they sell it at Ralph's. It's like a Ralph's brand, and it looks like Corona and it tastes like Corona, but it's not Corona, but it's good. And so I take 2 limes, I put a lime in there. I used to love that, man. That's when my body could handle it. Now I'm too old, man. I drink now, I just get tired and like just I'm dead to the world. But so I'm at this camp spot, really loving this camp spot. The weather's perfect. Sometimes it did rain, and I liked it when it rained. I put the tarp on, and I'd be in my little 3-man tent. I remember I met some other homeless people, and it was actually a day that it rained, and there was 4 of us in the little 3-man tent. I remember just like the rain pouring down, and then the water rising and like getting into the tent, but we were on an air mattress, so the rain, we were still sheltered from the rain because of the air mattress had kept us elevated. But so I'm there for a long period of time. Now, like I said, there was nobody there, but they had these landscapers, and the landscapers were actually the only ones that knew about my camp spot. But they were all Mexican. They didn't speak English. And a lot of times they'd come over, they'd say, hey, you want a bottle of water? And like I tried to be as friendly as I could with these guys, because I knew they were the only people in the world that had the power to narc me out to the cops. And so like I think they just felt sorry for me. I mean, I look pathetic. I'm like camping, like I look pathetic. Like I would have felt sorry for me. But yeah, and so I tried to be on my best graces with them. But eventually what happened is this. So when I was there, I don't know what season it was, but it was the season where like vegetation grows and everything's growing. Well, as like I said, I've been there for a few months. As it starts to get hotter, the shrub starts dying off. And then they sent the city workers to come clear out all of like the dead brush and stuff like that. And then they trimmed like everything that was like keeping me hidden. I come back one day and everything's trimmed, and I look and you can see my bright green tent from like a mile away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have no more privacy. They've completely cut everything down. And so at that point I knew it was a wrap. And so I went to my campsite and I'm like, I'm trying to put shrub over it, but like, I'm sticking out like a sore thumb. Like there's no hiding me. I'm right. It looks like I'm just standing on the sidewalk. Like I'm that wide open. So I knew it was a wrap at that point. I didn't want to stay there any longer because the cops already knew who I was from, my friend was like schizophrenic and always had run-ins with the cops, and I always just happened to be there, and so the cops had known me, and then I had also done a few little stupid things, like got into a fight, and I don't know, just dumb stuff, but the cops knew my face, they knew who I was, because they knew that I was friends with my friend, and they hated my friend, and so they hated me. And the Laguna Hills cops, they're like the worst cops in the world. They got nothing to do, and they will bust you for like running a stop sign, or like tint on your windows, like anything ridiculous that normal cops don't pull you over for. Laguna Hills cops will pull you over for that. And trust me, it's all rich people there, and there's only one street in the entire city with like illegals and like illegal activity. I don't even want to say illegal activity. It was more like just weed and stuff. But no, I take that back. It was actually quite a bit of crystal meth going on. But they're just so petty. And anywhere else, like you go to Santa Ana, you go to Dana Point, you go even over to Laguna Niguel, like it's pretty chill. Laguna Hills cops are just not chill at all. If you guys have had a run-in with Laguna Hills cops, please comment and let me know what type of stuff, what petty thing they did to you, what they busted you for. So I pack up my tent and I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here. I can't stay here. It's a wrap. I've had my 3 months of fun. It's time to find a new campsite. So what I do is I get on the bus, and there's a bus that goes down Moulton Parkway, and then there's a bus that goes to Laguna Canyon. And I didn't want to be at Laguna Beach because the homeless scene in Laguna Beach, Laguna Hills cops, Laguna Beach cops are okay, but they're not okay with open containers. And the thing about me is I always had an open container on me, no matter where I went. I was Mr. Open Container. As a matter of fact, I think I had 8 open container tickets from the beach, from Laguna Beach, which eventually sent me to jail, which was like the first time I went to jail. But, so I get on the bus, and what I do is I just sit on the bus, and I just ride it for hours. And I'm looking for spots to potentially explore and pitch my tent. And I know that having a bike, like getting off and then riding your bike, because you don't want to like camp. The chances of me finding another spot like the one I had probably wasn't going to happen. So I knew that the best thing to do was to get on a bike and kind of like just explore. But I remember that day I was just so drunk that I didn't get off the bus, and I was just like looking for spaces to pitch my tent. And there is a nature trail. There's a nature trail in Laguna Hills, almost to Laguna Canyon. There is a hidden lake in this little area, okay, that I later found with Vic. Me and Vic went crawdad fishing, but there's a nature trail. And I had been to the nature trail before, but at the nature trail is also the power company or electrical company. It's like the headquarters. I don't know if it's the electrical company or I don't know, but they got satellite dishes, and there's always trucks and work vehicles going in and out of there. And then they put up a chain link. It says you cannot cross, like at around 5 o'clock when they go home, they put up the chain link. I believe there was cameras in there. And I didn't really feel comfortable going up the nature trail. Also, it was very secluded. It was like the type of place where you can just go and, off somebody and get away with it. And so I didn't really want to go there, but I just couldn't think of anywhere. And I was so high I remember just being so drunk. Hold on. I've been in my car all day. I remember just being so high and so drunk that me and my friend, we were together looking for a spot. I said, let's just go up the nature trail and let's see if we can camp up there. So we walk up, and there's this big giant oak tree, and it's got shade, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, let's just camp here. I said, I know they'll probably kick us out in the morning, but we'll just go find another place after that. I said, let's just do it. And so we pitched the tent. In this tent, I remember it wasn't the same tent that I had for the other place. I remember I wanted to upgrade because the tent that I had, it was only used for that spot because I needed to stay hidden, but I preferred a much larger tent, and we had one. So the plan was to use this new tent and pitch it. It was a tent you could stand up in it, and so what we do is we go under this oak tree and we pitch the tent. Gigantic, it's like an 8-man tent. It's got like 2 rooms, really nice tent, and it was an REI, so it was nice. And I have an air mattress. It's like a queen size air mattress. Hold on, I'm gonna burp. And we pitched the tent. And I remember I get a good night's sleep, man. I was wasted. I passed right out. And in the morning, like bright and early, like 6 o'clock, I hear somebody banging on the tent. They're like, hey, 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 hey. And we open it up, and it's Vic. It's Mountain Man Vic. And he says, what the hell are you guys doing? I'm like, dude, we're just camping. Like, where did you come from? Like, and we knew Vic. Vic was just somebody we knew. He was, I really respected Vic, because anytime I seen him, if he had a beer, he had no problem giving me some beer. Always had weed, and he always gave me free weed. He just was a really solid, nice homeless guy that just looked out for anybody. Just a real man. Just really. I mean, it's a shame, or just crazy he was homeless for just how genuine and like never stole anything, no criminal activity. Just a really solid guy. I think he just had some mental issues going on, but yeah. And so it's Vic, and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing? And we're just like, what are you doing? We're camping. Like, what? And he says, you guys are gonna get me busted. He says, I got my campsite over here. He says, I've been camping here for 30 years. He says, you guys are gonna get thrown out of here. And so he says, come on. He says, I'll help you take down your tent. He says, bring your tent over to my campsite and you can set it up over there. And we're like, oh, all right. And so this was his camp. This is where he stayed. This was his campsite. So we bring it over to his area. All right, now let me tell you about his area. You want to talk about urban camping, but like Swiss Family Robinson style? We get to this guy's campsite. Okay, he's got his tent, which looks like a rat hole. Okay, the tent's dilapidated. The zipper to like open up the tent, there's no zipper. It's just an opening, right? And he's got a pallet, and he's got his blankets on top of the pallet, probably to protect himself from the rain or something. But it's like a big tent, but it's low to the ground, like, because it's been sitting there for so long that the poles have just like compressed, and there's like no spring left on the pole. And so it looks like just like a little rat den, which actually was a rat den. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But so he's got that tent, and then you look over, he's got another tent, and he's got about 4 tents, and they all look the same. They all look like little rat dens. And then you start. All right, I'm trying to think if I should tell you guys this right now. I'm gonna save this for a minute. So remember the rat den thing. So we pitch our tent, and Vic starts explaining that he's been homeless. It might have been 20 years, but it actually might have been 30. I'll just go with 30 because I think he did say 30. But Vic said, yeah, he says, I've been homeless for 30 years. And he says, I've lived in the same spot for 30 years. He says, and when you look around, you're like, okay, this dude's really been living here for 30 years. Like, you just see like lots of cans and lots of batteries. A story about the batteries. This is weird. So, like I said, we were at the electrical, the power plant, okay? And there was these gigantic towers. I don't know if they were cell phone towers or if they were power towers, okay? But throughout so since Vic was homeless, he relied a lot on C batteries, D batteries, AA batteries, but mostly C batteries, because he had a radio that took the big C batteries, and every time, this was like Vic's way of doing things. I camped with him for so long, I got to learn like his habits and stuff. And so every time Vic's batteries would die, he'd go to the dollar store. This is when batteries were $1 at the dollar store. He'd go to the dollar store and buy more batteries, but he would take his old batteries and he'd just chuck them. But at nighttime, this is crazy. I don't know how this is possible, but at nighttime, the batteries would glow. I don't know like how, but something to do with like the power plant and like the radiation or something. I don't know, but you would see the batteries glowing at nighttime. Weird. So, and there was batteries scattered. I used to find batteries everywhere because he's been there for so long. And, you know, the radio wasn't 30 years old. The radio probably like a 2000, 2005 radio. It's a nice one. It's like the boombox, got the CD player and everything. But he used it a lot. He listened a lot to AM radio. He was a real outdoors, off-the-grid type guy. Rugged guy, could make stuff, build stuff. Really good with his hands. And so he gets, what Vic does, he gets up in the morning, and I'm saying bright and early. Gets up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, goes to AM, PM, gets a coffee, and what would he do? Go to AM, PM, he'd get his coffee, and then I believe, yeah. And Vic was very adamant about trash. Because there was like when you leave the campsite and you get out onto the road, there's a bus stop, and then there's a trash can at the bus stop. And so Vic's routine was he'd get up in the morning, he'd go down to the bus stop, he'd throw his trash away, and then he would catch the bus. The bus would pick him up, he'd put his bike on the bus, he'd go to AM, PM, he'd get his coffee and get ready for the day, and then I believe he would come back, I think. Oh, yeah. I'm forgetting a big detail. So Vic was a massive wine drinker. Wino. I've never seen somebody drink more wine. When I used to say he'd give me beers, no. He'd only give me wine because he had wine. But he only drank Franzia. And Franzia is 5 liters of wine, and it comes in a box, and they sell it at CVS usually. And this is back in 2009. I think it's still probably around the same price. But Franzia was $9.99 for a box. That's a lot of wine, okay? And so Vic would go, he'd get a coffee, and he'd get his Franzia, and he would start. He was a massive alcoholic, massive. And he would start drinking his Franzia, and he would get a little intoxicated, and then because he had to have it, like if he didn't have it, he would get the shakes. He would start drinking, and then after he drank enough, I don't know how much he would drink first, but then he would get on his bike and then go out and start doing his recycling. And he was in such good shape from riding his bike everywhere, and when he would come back, that bag, it's like a 200-pound bag. Imagine the type of shape you're going to get into lugging around a backpack full of metal all day. Talk about getting in shape, man. So he would come back at the end of the day, and he'd take his bag and he'd empty it, and you'd just see all the metal, and he'd just start sorting through it, like separating copper from aluminum and steel, and then he'd bring it to the recycling plant, and he'd get his money. I think that's what he would do in the morning, because I think he'd do his returns in the morning. But yeah, so he'd start drinking his wine, he'd go out and he'd do his routine, and that was that. Well, this was during my Spice days, and I also, living with Vic, I was like, I'm just gonna start drinking Franzia, and that's what I did. So me and Vic, we just drank Franzia all day. We had to start getting 2 boxes of wine rather than 1 box of wine. But me and Vic, we became good friends. I'd get my bike, we'd put our bikes on the bus together. A lot of times there'd already be a bus on the bike, and so like I'd have to end up locking it up, and it would mess up our day not having 2 bikes. But yeah, me and Vic, we'd go. Vic was a big Laguna Beach guy. He had a girlfriend named Daisy. I don't know if that was her name, Daisy, but she used to sell flowers. She was in a wheelchair, and she would put flowers in the basket of her wheelchair, and it was a motorized wheelchair, and she'd just drive around Laguna Beach selling flowers all day. And I don't know if her nickname was Daisy because she sold flowers, or if that was her real name. But Daisy was Vic's girlfriend, and she was disabled, and she had a house because she was disabled. But I think because Vic was allowed to be there, but he wasn't allowed to spend the night. And Vic was also a violent guy. Not like a bad violent guy, but like violent if you crossed him, okay? And I think Vic had probably done some violent things which was probably the reason that he was not allowed to stay at Daisy's house. But so Vic would go there and like to Daisy's house, and he'd check up on her. He'd run errands for her. Because since she was disabled, she couldn't do a lot of things, and Vic would, they were a couple, and so Vic would just, you know, I don't know what he would do over there, but he would just take care of things for her. And then Vic was very routinish, so he would go to Daisy's at certain times, certain days, and he was always on time, and he was always back at the same time. So he would come back from Daisy's, and he was always in a good mood when he came back from Daisy's. He really loved her. I don't know how Daisy felt about him. I never really seen Daisy except for her asking me if I want to buy flowers. But Vic really loved her. Spoke very, very highly of her. And yeah. But I gotta cut this video short because I have to. I've got to get going. But I'm gonna tell you guys. So I remember being there and at the campsite, and I was at the campsite, and Vic was gone. And I seen this giant rat, and it crept me out. I'm like, and the rat kept like looking at me, and it was just a strange looking rat. It looked almost like humanish, like it was just like a strange rat with like human tendencies. It would just sit there and look at you and just eat and just like stare at you, and then it would like hop from branch to branch and kind of like a dog wants you to like play with them. It was weird. And I remember just being like creeped out of this weird rat. And then Vic came back, and I'm like, Vic, I said, dude, there was this rat that I saw, and he starts laughing. Well, the rat was Vic's friend, and it was like his pet. And the rat was, the rat was domesticated. It was like a real pet. And it would come up to Vic, and like Vic would pet it, and it was old. It was like an old wise rat. It was gigantic. It was like the size of a possum. And it just behaved like a dog. It was so smart. And the rat actually ended up becoming like my friend too. It was so strange to have such an intelligent rat just living there at the campsite. It was freakishly weird, but totally awesome at the same time. So I'm gonna cut the video short here, guys. I'd like to finish, but it's 7:04. I've got to get to storage and load up my truck. Palabra, hugs, not drugs. And I love you guys.